Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Jack and today I am going to read one interesting post from our Malicious Compliance about how a guy was asked to come to work next day when he was injured in a car accident. So, let's start. I know you almost died, but can you work tomorrow? Got hurt at work, took a bribe. Manager tried to threaten me out of the deal, backfired and I got offered a better bribe. I worked as a rescue technician for a safety and rescue company that provides various emergency medical services at construction and hazardous zones. Our scheduling manager was notorious for doing and saying whatever he felt to get empty shifts filled, ironically circumventing a lot of job safety regulations. But on this particular Sunday I was involuntarily volunteered to work. On the way to a job site, I was involved in a car crash that resulted in our truck turning into an accordion and burning to the frame on a major interstate. Gotta love drunk drivers, right? Luckily, my partner and I had relatively minor injuries. Among the trivial scratches and various cuts, I had internal bruising in one thigh and knee bad enough to warrant crutches after being discharged from the hospital later that day. HR was very understanding, asked if I was still able to at least come to the office for light duty instead of claiming wages from workers' comp. Seeing as comp was already paying for medical treatment, a new phone and laptop of my choosing, and I could still drive, I said sure. My job had no light duty. So I basically came to the main office and licked stamps. This continued for about 3 work days. On the 4th day, scheduling manager decided I was ready to go to a refinery and climb around machinery. He bursts into the vestibule I was using as a workspace and tosses a job sheet on my desk. Manager, nobody wants to come in. We're short-handed today, so you need to be at refinery 105 miles away in an hour. You can take truck 23. Me, sorry, manager. I'm still on light duty. Quote. Manager, are you serious? How long are you going to milk this out, dude? I need you to do some real work tomorrow. I have too many jobs going on. Me, I'll let you know if anything changes. I'm sure it won't look good to refinery if I show up limping on a crutch when I'm supposed to be dragging people out of crawl spaces. The next morning I wake up to an email with a job assignment. Same refinery, same position. I call HR and he says he'll take care of it and to come into the office for light duty. Scheduling manager is waiting for me at the door. Scheduling manager, really man? We just talked about this, let me clue you into something, we don't have light duty here. You need to be put on a job site your next shift or I'm going to put you on unpaid time off. Your discharge papers didn't say you can't work. Me, HR guy told me to take it easy until I feel better. Nobody else is pushing the issue, but have it your way, scheduling manager. At this point I was starting to walk without my crutch in short bursts. I was expecting to try a job site on Monday if the weekend showed more improvement, but after these interactions I felt petty. Scheduling manager was vital and interweave with the company. He had been there for 16 years or so getting him in trouble wasn't an option. I knew to drive a point home I had to aim for the only thing that mattered. His empty shifts. I went to HR to apologize for the paperwork he's about to file. I tell him I'm leaving after lunch to make a doctor's appointment. Not only was there still deep bruising, but the doctor diagnosed me with sprained abduction and abduction muscles. Estimated return date 3 weeks. I happily composed an email to scheduling manager and attached the note. He replied with a flurry of angry emails which I forwarded to HR with my original doctor note. HR guy told me I could either stay home and take the comp pay or come to the office daily at my leisure, leaving any time after lunch. He promised that scheduled manager wouldn't bother me, and I could occupy the spare office in the unused half of the building. I gladly took the latter offer, and for the next 3 weeks I was sitting in my office, playing MMOs on my laptop all morning, going home at 12:30. Never really had an issue after that. In fact, he never contacted me directly after that. All my scheduling was given as a general memo by the secretary. I did leave for another job 2 months later, and to this day I get emails asking me to do contracted jobs for them. Edit, if anyone is wondering why I didn't file complaints and was hesitant on utilizing workers' comp, this was a large mum and pop business, and my own mother happened to work there in a different department. We try to keep things fair and reasonable so the owner doesn't get involved. He tends to overreact. Edit 2, a couple of people are curious about the drunk driver. The shortest version of this story is the longest 5 seconds of my life. Driving up the interstate with my coworker at 5 a.m. going about 80 miles away. Super dark outside and the highway wasn't lit on this particular stretch. Drunk driver ahead driving makes some awful sharp swerves to merge ahead of us and flips his truck. We plow into it at an angle that made us hit a guardrail. We had a terrible moment of clarity before the initial impact that still gives me depressive thoughts about death. Engine caught fire and we managed to get out. I hobbled over to the other truck to see if the guy was alive, and well, he was A-okay and out of the damned thing before I made it over there. I think we went to the same hospital because the police were in the ER when we got there. Some interesting comments from other readers. Finally, a HR guy bring nice. I'm glad that this world isn't totally full of shitty HR people. The other guy hit the nail on the head. All office personnel were extremely personable and worked at this company since its incarnation. I, too, was taken aback by how pleasant and reasonable the HR was. The type of guy that just wants quick and fair resolution. Nobody at that company intentionally screwed people over except scheduling manager. First malicious compliance post I've seen in a while that wasn't petty, and the only malicious compliance I've seen that admitted being petty. You're freaking upstanding. Pun intended, but genuinely meant. You handled that perfectly, and still did light duty. Involuntarily volunteered is often called volunteer told in my neck of the woods, mate. Did love the story though. Workers' comp use can increase the cost for the business too. Not to mention probably getting OSHA involved if it's in the US. Reply with a contract for rates at $8,000 a day. If you know where the emails are coming from and know the email for the boss of that position, then from the second time onwards you can send a note to the boss saying how happy you are that their subordinate has decided to contract you, already knowing your rate from the first time. Smiley face. You handled this perfectly by letting him dig his own hole. HR told you what to do and what you were accountable for. You manager overruled that, you get the doctor's note. This forces HR to overrule manager, not you, not doctor. You are working and not filing for a short-term comp, hopefully getting normal salary. I get tired hearing about people intentionally fucking things up. I went to job site and destroyed $10,000 piece of equipment. Work to rule is great. Funny story, I can actually answer this with almost the exact scenario. Location matters quite a bit in law, so always consult an accredited lawyer in your area if it ever does become more than a thought exercise. I was working as a secretary at a small personal injury law firm and used an easement to get from the parking lot to the main entrance. I wore heels in an effort to look professional and such. This particular day was a pair of approximately 2 wedges which didn't agree with the gravel in the easement and sent me tumbling. I heard a pop and hoped I hadn't broken a bone. Narrator, she had, but managed to limp up the stairs and get to my desk about 10 minutes before shift start. I was particularly determined on this day because it was the end of my first week and they'd flown someone in to do the training on a particular piece of software. So I get through about 4 hours of training, with a little hobbling to and from the copier. When we stop for lunch we've basically covered what needed to be covered, and then some. I finally look down and realize that my ankle is about the size of a softball, so I go to show my boss and ask about taking the afternoon off, and his jaw just dropped. He insists that I go get it checked out immediately. I call my then husband, we head to a doctor and yep, broken. So being that it's a personal injury law firm, my boss, the lawyer, did a quick bit of preliminary research on my behalf. The spot I fell was an easement and belonged to the restaurant next door. There was no surveillance in the area that would have caught the incident, and no one saw me fall. The shoes were a contributing factor. It happened before work hours, but within the course of business. My options basically came down to workers' compensation against the firm, who would probably have to turn and sue the property. Slip and fall against the restaurant, but it wasn't a particularly good case and had little chance of payout. Lots of effort for an unlikely outcome. A couple hundred out of pocket and accidents happen, oh well. I ended up choosing 3. Could I have gotten workers' comp? Probably. Was it worth effectively burning a small business where I just got hired? Nope. Especially since I'd have to hire a different lawyer to take on my boss or his insurance's lawyers on effectively his home turf. Sometimes the chance of return on a lawsuit is just not worth the headache. I'm with you, and maybe you already know what I'm about to say. Returning to work for light duty implies the injury isn't that bad in the eyes of the SM. I don't condone that way of thinking, yet that's how most jobs view it, and I'm speaking from personal experience with workers' comp, because if the injury was that bad, they'd stay home and get paid. Again, just rehashing how these idiots tend to think. I would have consulted a lawyer just to see if you could have got that SM fired or something, because clearly there's no respect for their worker. That's it, guys. Hope you have enjoyed this video. Please hit like and subscribe for more daily videos.